Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jason Tucker, and this is WP Watercooler, episode number 355. Man, that's way bigger number than the one on Blab. 355. Yeah, and today we're gonna be discussing COVID-19, and I'm writing it as the state of working from home for WordPress. But you can kind of take it however it is that you want. The idea here is we wanted to kind of talk about working from home, and also the fact that we have a lot of people that work from home who don't typically get to get out as much, and all the things that they usually go out to do, which are WordCamps and WordPress meetups, are being canceled. So we're going to talk about that in just a second. I want to get us introduced real fast. Bridget, you're new here for every once in a while you pop in, but you're new here. Say hi.
Hey everybody, I'm a WordPress marketer and freelancer, and you can find me at bridgetwiller.com.
Jason Cosper, how about you?
Y'all know who it is. It's Jason Cosper, aka Fat Mullenweg, here to talk some WordPress, here to not get the coronavirus, and yeah, looking forward to the show.
Perfect. Steve, how about you?
I'm Steve Zengin. I'm the founder of Zeek Interactive, and I run the OC WordPress meetup.
Awesome. I'm Jason Tucker. You can find me over at Jason Tucker on Twitter. I do this show as well as another show with Bridget Willard, and we just did that not too long ago, about half an hour ago. And that's WP Blab. We talked about older folks and ageism, and dealing with people of all different ages and how technology works with them and stuff. And it was a fun episode, so definitely go take a look at that. You can go to WPwatercooler.com/WPBlab to see that. I do want to let you know that we are brought to you by ServerPress, Maker's Desktop Server. Go over to their website over at serverpress.com. They make local WordPress development easy. Thank you very much for helping us out with it. We really appreciate it. Talk to you pretty soon. We're going to have Mark on at some point here. I know it, because they're going to be talking about a bunch of fun stuff with doing WooCommerce with their WP Site Sync and bunch of fun stuff. So you'll be seeing them soon.
Cool.
So let's talk a little bit about this. We've been seeing reports of WordCamps one after another being canceled. We've been seeing reports of meetups being canceled. Some of the meetups are now being just essentially live stream, doing what we're doing here. We're having a four-person meetup right now. Like that's kind of what's going on here. And with five people currently watching it. So, it is what it is, and it's kind of a way of life right now. But we're starting to see more and more of these things happen. Both Steve and I live in pretty much the same type of area. We're starting to see, our kids' schools getting closed, and school districts having issues and all sorts of stuff. So I wanted to kind of see if we can navigate a little bit of this, just based off of the things that we've done. And how, we've all worked in offices, but we've all worked, remote as well. And for the folks that have never done that before, what should they be expecting, and what tools maybe they should be looking at to kind of make that happen? Who wants to start us off? Because I've talked for 3 minutes.
Well, look, I have some really strong opinions about remote work.
Okay.
Because I was a secretary for 30 years, and all of a sudden, in 2015, I'm working at my house, right? So when I was working with Thought House, I had a hybrid. I worked from home 4 days a week, and then I went to office. But there were some things that were really important, especially being married and having friends that are stay-at-home moms, that my number one tip is that you need to enforce your boundaries with your friends and family. Because time and time again, and it still happens in 2020 to me 5 years later, where they're like, well, why can't you go to lunch for 3 hours on a Wednesday? Because I'm effing working. Or they'll say to me, what are you doing today, Bridget? I'm working. And I'll be sitting at my desk, and I visually change the orientation of more, because I don't have a dedicated room. I'm in the front room, and I visually change the orientation so people know I'm sitting here, and I only sit here when I work, and I only work when I sit here. And if you see me here, don't effing talk to me because I'm working. So like it was really, really hard because people think, oh, well, you're working from home, which means you can do whatever you want.
Nah.
You
that's not fair.
can and you can't. So yes, I have a certain amount of things, but because I'm routine oriented and I realize my personality, yes, I can work from wherever, but I work best when I work at my desk from 9 to 5. Even though I can work later and I have worked at other locations. But that explaining to your friends and family that when you're working and it's just as important as if you're gone, that is so huge.
Steve, you got kids at home. You got
do.
wife that shows up from work and is wondering why the food isn't prepared, right? You know, you got that stuff going on.
No, I don't have that. But
I'm just messing with you.
Yeah. I think just to reinforce what Bridget said, I'm fortunate because I have a dedicated office in my house. I close the doors. Everybody knows this is my office, right? When I'm in here, I am working, but it is absolutely important to set those boundaries. That's the only way to be successful when you're working from home is to let everybody know that this is the signal or this is the place where I work, whatever that looks like for you. It's going to be different for everybody. But also it's important that you set up your own boundaries, right? It has, part of it is other people, but you have to set up your own boundaries because I'm home, right? It's really easy for me to go and sit down and watch the news for 30 minutes or catch a basketball game. Well, it used to be, or do laundry or chores or something else, right? And I have to like physically separate myself from the rest of the house when I'm working. Otherwise, it won't be productive.
Yeah, I've been working from home for 8 years now, and the first year there was a lot of lessons there. Let me give you some shortcuts. Have a dedicated place that you can work. Basically, like Bridget said, I was working from the kitchen table for the first. I was working from the kitchen table in a 1-bedroom apartment with my wife in Hollywood, and it was a little rough because if she would want to watch TV, I would have to listen to whatever she was watching until I bought headphones. So that's part 2. Have a good pair of headphones. Have something where you can tune things out. You hear noise canceling is good, but if you can't spring for the noise canceling, hell, just get something and play a chill playlist. There's a lot of good. There's actually a number of good YouTube channels that have just like this kind of chill, like lo-fi hip hop, sort of just like this chill beat all day long.
I got a couple I can stick in the show notes. It's gonna be
good.
You
can jam out to, and that sort of keeps you focused and in. But while you're focused and working, you got to take breaks. You absolutely have to take breaks. I use a Pomodoro timer, which runs for about 25 minutes. And it always reminds me every 25 minutes to take a quick 5-minute break. And then after 4 Pomodoros, after 4 25-minute chunks, like even with those little 5-minute breaks here and there, it says get up and do like a 15-minute break, do a long break. So it's one of those things that is really helpful and reminds me to get away from the computer every once in a while. And when I get away from the computer, I have 2 dogs. I take the dogs out. I am fortunate enough to live in a house. I go out in the backyard and stand in the sun for a little bit.
What's that?
I know. Actually getting outside and standing in the sun is huge. Being able to feel some fresh air and everything else to just reset yourself is so great. Even though I do have a dedicated place to work from, like I said, I've been doing this for 8 years. I've been in my current house almost 2 years. I do like to switch it up sometimes. Sometimes I will go work from my kitchen table. Sometimes I will go work from the couch, or we're fortunate enough to have a guest bedroom as well in this house. I'll go lay on the bed and, like I'm staying up all night writing on my diary and talking on the phone with my friends, but I'll lay on the bed with my, feet up like a slumber party and just and work from there. Like you got to kind of vary things up. And that is really helpful. But having a place for yourself, and if you can swing it, having a place where you can close the door, and when work is done, then you just close the door on your day. That is super important. If that means that if you don't have a place you can work from, having a drawer you can put your laptop in at the end of the day, something that you can basically clear off your space and go, work is done. I am not looking at my laptop until tomorrow morning.
One of the things I do at the end of my day is I actually put my laptop in my backpack. Right. Oh. It's just how it's mentally how I know, okay, my day's done and my work is away. Right. Because then if I want to check something, I actually have to grab my backpack, I unzip it, and I have to think. It forces me to think, okay, is this worth, going back to work for a couple minutes, or can this wait till tomorrow morning?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I want to piggyback on what Jason was saying too about the Pomodoro. Like, I was a secretary, so that was like built in me. But don't eat lunch at your desk.
No.
So I had this bad habit when I was working. I mean, that's all work, but working in an office, of eating at my desk. So I go sit at my kitchen table and eat. Or if I go out to eat, I go somewhere quick. I'll like walk down to one of the restaurants and go eat, because it is good to change up where you are. Just like if you work in an office, it's good to change your surroundings. And also, I totally agree with you, Jason, about being outside. It's a game changer. Even 15 minutes makes a huge difference in your mentality.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and I used to go and have lunch at the local park. Like, I'd go make a lunch at home, or I'm already at home anyhow. Grab that, hop in the car, drive up the street, or wherever I need to go, and then just go sit there and just veg, just stare into space, listen to a podcast, do something that's not work related. Which I'd also say that if you are going to go away from and have lunch, try to not be active. Don't sit there and look at Slack for the entire time you're there, or look at answering text messages from coworkers or anything like that. Like, respect your own time. And if you can respect your own time, then hopefully they'll start respecting yours. And if not, then, maybe they're struggling with the same sort of thing as well.
A little something that I've learned, and this is also like when you go back to working in a regular office, this helps. I have the way that I have my email set up is I have an email app that is my personal email. That's the one that sits on my home screen. And then I have a work email app that sits in a folder that I have to dig for. I almost never look at my work email on my phone. It is there if I really need it. If I get a phone call and somebody wants me to look at my work email, I'll look at my work email. That's fine. But I try to keep that separated. Slack, the only reason Slack is on my phone is because I have a Slack instance that has some friends. It's a group chat, but that's it. I don't have work Slack on my phone. I make that separation. Slack, work Slack, that's work. That happens on my work laptop. My personal phone is my personal device. I don't let work encroach on my personal devices. And doing that really helps you kind of have that separation that kind of keeps you sane. Because a lot of times, and especially as the guy for a while who was one of the only remote people on in a large company, they're like, "Oh, Jason's at home; he can handle that." And I would get hit up with messages and say, "Hey, can you look at this? Hey, can you do this? Can you do that?" And next thing I know, it's 7, 8, 9 o'clock.
Midnight.
Yeah, I'm in my office working on something because I'm the guy who's available. No, fuck that. Honestly, if there are systems in place, or there should be systems in place, where if a person is needed, that there's like an on-call rotation or something like that.
Right.
But just don't end up becoming that person who always takes on the thing because you're working from home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would also say, and this is something I've always done, but if you're used to structure and now you're at home, time block and use your calendar or whatever to block out your time. Most of the time when I have consulting calls with my friends, y'all WordPress developers and freelancers, that's what I say. Work on a project from this hour to this hour, and that's it. So like after this show, from 12 to 2 on Fridays, I write something for my website. And so like things like that, blocking out your time really helps, especially if you use colors. I love color coding. It really helps me. Like something that's yellow is something that makes me happy. Red is work. Gray is my health calendar, going to the gym, that kind of stuff. So like you might get extra time because you're not commuting, but that's not extra time. It's kind of like taxes. I don't mean to be political, but like that was always your time.
Yeah.
So don't view it as extra time to work. If if you're used to leaving the house at 8 to be there at 9, that extra time is yours. So spend it with your family or journal or go to the gym or something. But don't think, oh, I used to work from 8. I used to leave at 8 and get home at 6. So I'll just work then. No, do the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
So, Zeke went remote about 1.5 years ago. That's when we went full remote. We were already half remote, so we were already used to working remote. And so going full remote was easy for us. But I want to talk about from a business owner or a boss's perspective, what makes a good remote employee, what I look for in a good remote employee.
Yeah, please.
Because we sort of talked about our responsibility and what we do to make sure we work. But, remote working, I've always said this, is not for everyone, right? But given this new environment, it's soon going to be everyone, right? And so the number one aspect I look for in a remote employee is accountability, right? And there's a lot of things that go along with that, but accountability means regularly checking in, saying, reporting back what you worked on, right? Communicating regularly if Slack or some sort of Slack-like device is your tool. Regularly reporting back throughout the day what's going on with you, if it's appropriate for your work situation, right? Whatever interval that looks like. But me and my employees are on Slack, and I'm constantly getting reported back, what's going on, or they're constantly reporting back to our production manager. Here's what's happening, right? The worst thing you can do is not communicate, right? Is go into your cave and start working, even though you might be working on something. If you're not communicating back, right, there's a perception on the other end that you're not working, right? And so that communication chain is really important, and that accountability piece is really important. And frankly, it's on you, right? Because as a business owner, as a boss, I don't want to have to be constantly checking in, right?
Right.
The other part I was going to mention about accountability, and then I'll let you guys chime in, is if you finish early, right, that doesn't mean you've ended your day, right? What the accountability piece means is I finished something early. At this point, I'm going to raise my hand and say, hey, I've got some extra time in my day, right? What else can I take on, right? So that's a big part of that accountability piece as well. And the other thing that I find that people do, again, going back to the raising your hand part of it, is if you get stuck on something, right? If you hit a blocker, you should immediately raise your hand and say, hey, I'm blocked. And decide, with your team what to do about that, right? Is that something that I should push aside and take on something else? Is there a way to unblock this? But if you get blocked, the worst thing you could do is sit and wait, right? Because as a business owner, as a boss, I don't know that that's happening, right? And so at the end of the day, I'm going to look and say, okay, there was 8 hours, but really there was only a couple hours of work that was actually done in my mind, right? I'm going to start wondering what happened there. And so that all that stuff adds up to accountability.
And that will happen because you're not, doing this. Like when you get up to go to the bathroom, you just get up and go to the bathroom. There's no conversation. Like we like to call those interruptions, but that's part of our that's part of what makes being in the office good and bad. So you will finish things faster because you're not having those natural breaks.
Well, and at the office, you've got a little bit of social pressure, right? To get your work done, right? There's a team around you, and everybody's working, and so there is a sort of a natural accountability that happens with that for most people, right? Some people take advantage of that happens, but for the most part, you are sort of being micromanaged, right? When you're working directly with the team. When you're at home, there is no more micromanagement. It's not part of the system anymore, right? So it's up to you. And I hate to use this word, but it's up to you to micromanage yourself, right? And you've got to do that to stay on track. And that it's not a natural thing. It doesn't. You don't just snap your fingers and that happens. And so that it all talks to that accountability piece.
Steve, what do you guys use to do like your stand-up meetings or any of those sorts of tools when you're working in a group like that? I mean, you get to decide, but being the business owners, but I imagine you've been through a bunch of them, right?
Yeah. We use a carrier pigeon and smoke signals.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
I have the blanket. I go out every morning and
you're like, who's gonna be Pope today? Let's find out.
We do it's Slack and Zoom. So Slack for real-time communication all day, or phone, right? We still have the phone, right? So everybody's got a cell phone. If I need to just get in touch with somebody right away, I'm out running an errand, or I'm away from my desk for a minute, phone, right? But mostly Slack is how we do real-time communication, and then Zoom for our stand-ups, and then we also just use Zoom throughout the day if we need to collaborate on something. We'll just pull up a Zoom and hop on a screen share, knock it out, and then we're back to our day.
So for employees that are used to the like kind of fluffy fluff, blah, 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 before they actually ask the boss a question or their supervisor, do you have some communication tips because writing in Slack is totally different than being face-to-face.
Yeah.
So do you have some tips, Steve or Jason?
So I'll just tell you from what we do. So our morning meeting kind of runs the same every morning, right? We spend the first 5, maybe 10 minutes just bullshitting. Right. It's really just how was your weekend? How was your day? Right. What's going on with you? And it's just meant to have some sort of a social interaction. Right. And again, there's no time limit to that, but it's usually about 5 or 10 minutes. And that's just natural. And then we do and this is direct from Chris Lemo, we do a done meeting. So we don't do a what are you working on? We do a what did you complete yesterday? Right. So that's what everybody's reporting. And so everybody has a sense of accomplishment when they're reporting something. It also motivates people to get stuff done so that they can report what they did yesterday. Right. If you're always talking about what you're going to be doing, then, you can just keep pushing that off. Right. So we do a done meeting every morning. And so we do social interaction for about 5-10 minutes. Done for about 10 minutes, and then blockers, which are really just a couple of minutes if anybody has anything that's blocking it. And that's really just so that our production manager can follow up and get that thing unblocked. And then we go about our day. I mentioned Slack and Zoom. We also use Teamwork. So Teamwork is how we prioritize our tasks. But that is client facing as well. So our clients are in there and they get to help prioritize everything there as well. Anyway.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm going to echo what Steve said. Slack and Zoom are like our primary tools. I have used several different over my era in remote work. We use Basecamp internally as a team, mainly because as a company, they use Jira, and we don't need anything that heavy to just kind of like keep track of our tasks. The nice thing also is we have Basecamp set up that every morning we know what people are working on already because everything is in Basecamp. Mm-hmm. When you finish your day, you leave a comment on the stuff you're working on. Here's where I'm at. Here's where I stopped. It's a good way to track what you've been doing. Mm-hmm. And then the next morning, we meet 3 times a week, I want to say. and just kind of a general, mainly we bullshit. We talk about blockers and, we talk about what's done, basically what has been completed. But sometimes we get into, okay, here, I want you to look into this thing real quick. Let's go ahead and, get this done. But everything that happens for us in Basecamp, and we make sure to kind of keep on top of and let people know what's going on. The nice thing about Basecamp, because it sends that 9 a.m. Message that says, here's everything that's going on today.
The diary or batch or whatever, we get the same thing in teamwork. Right.
And, it'll post to Slack if you want it to, all that fun stuff. And, it feels really satisfying to hit that check and then just move on to the next thing.
Cool. We had a question from friend of the show, JD, who pretty much chimes in every show. He's asking about summertime schedules and such. And I was curious, like when you're dealing with kids at home during the school week, who are no longer a school week now, it's like you're actually during summertime, but you still need to work.
We're moving summertime on Monday.
Yeah. Like how do you manage that? How have you managed that, Steve?
Again, my kids know that when I'm in the office, I'm in the office if they're home, right? And so they are pretty good, and they're a little bit older now. They're pretty good about entertaining themselves. But summertime is hard. We typically, we'll set up camps for them to go to, so that they have somewhere to go during the day. Again, it sort of goes back to that, what we're saying before. When you're at work, and you can't be really dealing with anything at home because those interruptions, right? We all know that a 5-minute interruption is not a 5-minute interruption, right? It's really an interruption because it takes you out of your headspace, and to get back into that headspace, it takes a long time. Jen Bourne does something, they practice something really well, is they take a lot of vacations, right? And especially during the summer, they take a lot of vacations with their family. They're planned well in advance. She lets her clients know well in advance. And when she's on vacation, she is on vacation, right? That's something I don't do very well. But when she's gone, there is no computer, there's no email, there's no calls. Her clients know she's going to be out this time. She lets them know well in advance, and that's just the deal. That's, if you want to work with Jen, that's her vacation time. And so those are all kind of things to keep in mind. I'm not the best at this, but when I'm home, again, the kids know when Dad's in his office, he is working.
Well, you're setting boundaries, and you're setting, expectations and all of that. And setting expectations, I know, has been something that you've harped on quite a bit, Steve, throughout the many WordCamps that I've watched you speak at, and just making sure that people know what you got going on. And that includes your family as well. And that your friends, your family, all those folks, you may be working from home, but honestly, you're still working, and you still need to pay the bills, and you can still get fired, and you could the whole thing.
Well, working from home, emphasis on working, right?
Yeah.
Home part's not the emphasis, right? That's just physically where I'm located. I am working.
Mm-hmm.
And I will agree with what Steve said about Jen and taking her, making sure that she sets vacations and sets those. That's a really good thing. Right now, that's not necessarily going to work because we have Disneyland closing, Walt Disney World and Epcot closing, all of that stuff. But something that my wife Sarah and I have done is we have started on the weekends going out and just hitting some hiking trails, doing stuff like that. We're starting to get like wildflower blooms and things like that you can go out and see. And, with this whole social distancing thing of 6 feet, like you're not walking side by side with people like you would be out in an amusement park or something like that. You can actually go out and do these things, like go have a picnic at the park this weekend. If you're really starting to feel stir crazy, if you have a backyard, use your backyard.
Take a cruise.
Funny.
No. Too soon, Steve. Too soon.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Well, Cruz has always had problems with that other disease.
I hate cruises in general, so I think the advice that there's some sort of was a recommendation that you shouldn't go on cruises right now. But that's great. That's great.
Yeah,
life
but
advice.
what was that one thing everybody gets from being on a cruise anyway?
Dysentery.
Yeah.
I forgot what it's called, but it's like a flu.
Yeah, you should. I was going to say, I know Jason's going to wrap up, but I do want to give a shout out to Scott Berkun. Wrote this book, The Year Without Pants. Talks about his time working remotely for Automatic, which is very relevant to this space, and is really worth a read. I found it very interesting and enlightening. So y'all might too, especially if you're cooped up, you have some time to read books. Why not try that one?
Yeah, the other one that you guys were mentioning was staythefhome.com, and that one's a great one. And you should definitely take a look at that.
Or
But
watch
it's not
The Boys.
F.
Or watch
It's
The Boys
actually
on Amazon
spelled out.
Prime. Yeah. If you're not watching The Boys on Amazon Prime, I'm 2 episodes in. Oh my God.
All right, folks, thank you very much for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. And I do want to let you know that that this show was sponsored by Server Press Makers Desktop Server. We appreciate them and everything that they do. Go over to their website at WPwatercooler.com. You can find the links there to not only their sponsorship, but also previous sponsorships. And if you want to be a future sponsor, you can definitely do that too over at WPwatercooler.com/sponsor.
Give
Talk to
us
y'all later.
money.
Bye.
Bye.